So obviously a lot of developments continuing to come in about the latest crisis unfolding that is pretty extreme, prompting other people to commit other extreme moves, with even talk right now by the US president of possibly quarantining all of New York City and areas of Connecticut and New Jersey. In the world, Russia has taken more aggressive powers as well, with them just recently announcing that they will be closing all of their borders this coming Monday. In South Africa, the situation turned uglier as police officers decided to just shoot a bunch of people with rubber bullets that were queuing for food. And obviously, with the situation deteriorating and becoming worse from here, this signals more of an economic problem for not just the United States, but also, of course, the world. With that economic financial problem looming, there's also other individuals who are profiting from it, like Jeff Bezos of Amazon, one of the richest people in the world, a man connected to U.S. intelligence agencies, does help the Pentagon with their needs, whatever they may want. They get it from, of course, Amazon and Jeff Bezos. And this is the same person that just sold off $3.4 billion of his stock right before the coronavirus collapse that is ensuing right now and will continue from now. Tim, you're the financial economic guru here. What do you make of this news, and what else are you seeing as far as the economic news that you're keeping an eye on?
Thanks, Luke. Well, there is no shortage of economic news, certainly going on, and just like almost too much to keep an eye on here. But one of the things I'm looking at right now is if getting us into $6 trillion more debt doesn't matter, then why not 350 trillion? Why not a quadrillion? Why not, 700 quadrillion? And, that's
billion. That's a new word I made up, by the way. Go ahead.
Okay, copyright. No, just kidding. So we got the law, the $2 trillion fiscal stimulus, also known as the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or CARES Act, because they care about you, which gives the Fed the ammunition to issue up to $4.5 trillion in additional debt, a multi-trillion-dollar helicopter credit drop, as Bloomberg called it, and officially launched as not only helicopter money, or UBI, but the biggest wealth transfer in U.S. history, as not only will the Fed balance sheet double on short notice, but will also unleash an unprecedented spending spree, the likes of which not even Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez could even imagine. And I mean, it just gets to me. You think that if any Republican were, if a Democrat was in there, the Republicans would be up in arms over all this stuff going on, but they're not, and they're not because everything is based on who's on what team, and this is all good for the people. And I think it was Thomas Massey, and maybe later on I'll go to his Twitter feed, but he had something along the lines of, he's doing the math on all this stuff, and he goes, okay, so this is gonna, so basically each family of four is going to take on about $68,000 of new debt once the whole $6 trillion stimulus is, and I hate even using the word stimulus package, crony capitalist giveaway. So as a family of four, which I've got right now, that is $68,000 of additional debt burden we have to take on, but we're going to get back $3,000. Now I am a financial advisor, and so, but I don't have to be one to tell you that that's bad numbers. I mean, I think anyone can realize that things really don't add up. Now, right now, there is a treasury shortage. And so what people are doing is they are, running, they want to run for the hills. They want to run for what they deem to be safety. And I'll say that in air quotes. And so that safety is ramping into the US dollar. However, the banks aren't wanting to even go to the repo market anymore. A, because they're not really required to even have any reserves anymore, which is, gigantic news in and of itself that really wasn't covered. I know Luke and I covered it, but, outside of change the news over here, very few people have even covered the fact that banks don't even have to hold on to your money anymore. But, but who cares? All the people have been distracted by their stimulus checks that are coming. But if you want to make sure how to get your stimulus check, here's a way to do it. And then this article goes on to say, individuals making up to $75,000 a year would receive checks for $1,200 with an additional $500 per child. The payments would progressively decrease for individuals making more than $75,000 with an income cap of $99,000. And, for somebody, and I know you're not in New York City right now, but, for somebody in New York City, making $75,000 to $99,000 wouldn't even be that big of a deal. And you're actually going to be pretty poor in that case. And so it's just, it goes to show you that, it's a lot, politically expedient to be able to, just demonize, the quote unquote rich people when, I'm sure there's a lot of rich people who are in need too.
I remember seeing a Twitter post recently, someone saying it costs $1,200 just to even consider an apartment in Los Angeles. And of course, there's a lot of things that we can nitpick, but overall, the bigger act here, it's pretty devastating. It's going to have huge ramifications. And I know a lot of people who are, very happy that they're getting this $1,200. It's going to make the biggest difference. But overall, again, this is just chicken scraps compared to what Wall Street is taking away from everyone right now, and the bigger kind of bankster moves that are being made in front of our eyes that are not getting that much attention. Now, yes, there's a shortage of bullion, there's a shortage of condoms, of toilet paper, and we have to understand that this situation is
common sense. Lots of common sense is in shortage these days too. I have to point out.
Lots of logic. A lot of people are afraid. A lot of people are terrified. A lot of people are out of work. And we got the job numbers, the unemployment numbers, and they're really, really bad. But again, people need to understand we're still on the early precipice of this. We're still only just feeling some of the effects of this, and the effects later on will be even bigger. This is why I've been telling people to prepare ever since early February. Prepare, be safe, be smart, take this seriously. Mainstream media was telling you it's just a flu, don't worry about it. I mean, again, absolutely crazy situation. But as far as the economy is going, I see more of a bigger hit coming soon, in my opinion. Am I correct or incorrect on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to wish that these numbers were only as bad as they were, next month. We're going to wish they're only bad as what's coming this month. I mean, I'm a financial advisor, and I just started up my own garden out here in the desert. I got an aeroponic garden that I can grow, with 99% less water. And, something that I was doing before, but I was learning how to do this stuff before there was a calamity. So that way, in a situation like now, I would be prepared. Now, speaking of prepared, there is a revolver run. Banks suffer record $200 billion in outflows as frenzied companies draw down revolvers. So what this means in English, you have companies that have credit lines that they have access to. And so what they're doing is they are yanking those credit lines and putting them into banks so that before the banks can say, hey, you know what, your $60 billion credit line, no, now it's only going to be $10 billion. So these companies want to make sure they have access to their cash. And so what they're doing is they're making sure they can pull their cash before the banks end up, reneging on that type of offer. So as a result, as of last Friday, corporate borrowers worldwide, including Boeing, Hilton, Wynn, Kraft, Heinz, and literally thousands more had drawn down about $60 billion from revolving credit facilities this week in a frantic dash for cash as liquidity tightens. Now, also moving on here to some of the other stories over here. So Trump is actually pushing right now to basically the Congress wants to have oversight of all these bailout funds. And specifically, there's a $500 billion bailout fund. However, Trump said that, he doesn't really want Congress to do it, that he wants the Inspector General to do it. And so, again, if this was a Democratic president in there, which, and I would say if, I mean, basically the Democrats are communists and Trump right now is acting like what the Democrats would be doing. And, I was a gigantic supporter of Donald Trump going in there. I mean, my daughter my daughter was born on his first full day into office, or as I like to call it, the first day without Obama in there. And I was wearing a Trump shirt when she was born and reached over, about 2 million people the week of the election from a standstill as a nobody to help Donald Trump win. But I didn't want him to, then he goes in there, puts Jerome Powell in there, starts, filling up the swamp. And, who's one of the biggest swamp creatures that he put in there? Well, this is a perfect transition for this because that swamp creature is Steven Mnuchin. And so this right now is basically making Mnuchin one of the most powerful cabinet members in modern history, or you might even be able to argue that it's the most powerful cabinet member in history. I mean, just look at all the things we're doing. I mean, basically this guy is responsible for $6 trillion going up, just for this, quote unquote stimulus bill. And, and then things are going so crazy right now that, the market or different strategists out there aren't even giving targets on the S&P 500. And let me just give you a little secret. I mean, these guys have no idea what's going on when it comes to different numbers. And really they're just, pulling just a number out of thin air, or maybe they're making drastic calls. And that way, if, in the low probability to the right, that they can then, gallivant around CNBC and Fox Business. However, now it's at the point where they're not even giving up. And so, I had given up trying to, when clients would ask me, what they should do with their money, or not necessarily what they should do with their money, but when clients would always ask me things like, hey, where do you think the market's going to do this year or that year? And I said, as part of my, on stage at Acapulco, that there was just as good a chance, I thought, as the market going down 50% as there was going up 50%. And so I was invested in such a way where whether it went up more than 5 or down more than 5, either direction, I was going to win. Now that is a more advanced strategy that if you don't know what you're doing, you should definitely not try to engage in something like that, because there's a chance you could actually lose a lot of your money if you don't know what you're doing. But it's actually, if you do know what you're doing, was probably one of the safest ways you could invest. And so right now we're only sitting down about 5%, but I'm not making this to be a commercial. I'm making this to say, I do know what I'm doing when it comes to this sort of things, because it is craziness, and the market could go, the Dow could be at 100,000 a few years from now, because the money might not mean anything if the dollar bill collapses. And so we're in a very precarious situation, but Donald Trump wants to take advantage of the situation by having all of the coronavirus stimulus checks bear his name. And so that's just goes to show you that as part of this election marketing ramp up effort, that if he can be the guy that quote unquote saves the day, so to speak, then maybe he thinks that's going to help him in the reelection. I'm calling it right now. I think he doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning. And mind you, I had my grandfather who basically gave me an intervention in October of 2016 saying that I was nuts for saying that Trump was going to win. So I just want to be able to put that out there, that I was probably the first person to both say Trump is going to win, and then within probably 2 weeks, as soon as he picked Jerome Powell, I was like, that's it, this is done. He's going to end up losing. He's filling the swamp back up. Yep. He's bombing Libya.
As soon as I seen him hanging out with Henry Kissinger, saying, hey, this is my really good friend Henry Kissinger, he's going to be advising me on who I should put in here. People have to remember, Donald Trump kind of is an interesting figure. He classifies himself, in his own words, as a globalist and a nationalist. But so far, his actions are just typical globalist. There's some nationalistic actions. Let's not deny that. Let's not be like the mainstream media and just offer blanket statements here. But on some aspects, he has been extremely pro-globalist with a lot of his measures, especially with the military-industrial complex. But specifically, having Henry Kissinger in there on one of his first days, being pictured with him, saying so many great things about Henry Kissinger. We have to remember, Henry Kissinger was a part of the person that's making the situation that much worse right now, with specifically Kissinger and David Rockefeller being.
He helped get Mao in there. Mao. Kissinger is one of the main guys who got Mao in there, and then he was, greatly sad when he passed away.
Not only getting Mao in there, but they opened up China to the world, and David Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger flew to China, hanging out with Mao Zedong. They liked him because they had shared goals and views. They were all
Zbigniew Brzezinski and all the other characters.
Yeah. And then they said, we're going to open up China, create a whole bunch of slave factory labor here, while we get rid of the middle class in America, and we're going to send every job there. Everything that the United States pretty much depends on is made in freaking China, including medical supplies and medicine that we get from them, antibiotics and a whole bunch of other stuff that this country depends on. And that is the most stupidest, asinine move that you can make, since, of course, there's a global war, an economic war happening between China and the United States for global hegemony that may turn into a hot war. And to really, it's just perplexing, to say the least, why there's so much worship of Henry Kissinger when there should be a lot of ridicule for him establishing us in this extreme situation where, of course, we have to prop up China and all the horrible things that they're doing. And we're too afraid. There's so many people afraid of even criticizing China because that's how dependent we are.
Yeah, I even had someone in the military who they saw when I don't know, is Kissinger still alive? I can't remember if he's still, but he is. Yeah, still kicking. I know there was quite a few of them that passed away, but I remember
he's had many meetings with Trump, and just next to him, like, yeah, Kissinger's great. We love you, Kissinger. I'm like, come on, you got to be freaking kidding me. That's when I said, don't have any optimism for Trump. He's gonna do what every other president.
And people were accusing. I was losing. Yeah, and people were accusing you of being, Putin's son, and that you're, on the Trump train. And I was getting made fun of for being on the Trump train. But we were probably two of the only guys who were, I don't want to, speak for you, but that were, especially relative to Hillary. That I was, very pro Donald Trump, but then immediately knew that he was doing all the wrong things and ushering in. And now I think he was trying to do good things, and I think he's not necessarily a globalist, but he's gotten through things that they them those would only dream to have gotten in during this time of crisis. And I remember seeing people in the military getting mad at me when I was posting stuff about when I was posting about what's his name, Kissinger. And I go, you guys do realize that there is a quote by Kissinger where it says something along the lines of that the military are just dumb effing pawns to be used in this global
I asked
chess
Kissinger
game.
about that face-to-face, one-on-one. He said that military men are dumb, stupid pawns to be used, dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns for foreign policy. And that's a direct quote from him, according to Bob Woodward, the Bob Woodward of Watergate. And Kissinger just freaked out when I asked him, what did he mean by that? That video's up on the main channel.
Yeah.
You won't be able to find it. Maybe if you type in on Bing or another alternative search engine, because Google won't let you find it. We Are Change, Henry Kissinger. There's about 5 videos of me talking to him. But if there's going to be some scrutiny. There should be some scrutiny against China, Henry Kissinger, and the U.S. officials who never took this seriously and knew this storm was coming and profited off of it, and other people who made money off of this crazy insanity. That's my take on it.
Yep, and I was able to find that one of the Kissinger videos using DuckDuckGo, which is what my so here we go. So this is when you confronted him receiving the Freedom Award. I do remember seeing that, and just have to know where you get your pants to fit all those balls in there of doing all the stuff you're able to do. So.
He gets the freaking Freedom Award? Are you kidding me? After what he's done, after the horrible policies he's implemented, I mean, that's when you know.
1984, up is down, down is up.
Are totally corrupt. That's my take on it. Anything else you want to say, Tim?
No, I mean, there's some big retirement changes as part of this as well. So, I mean, I'll just kind of quickly just rattle some of these off right here. So it does show that required minimum distributions. So although all of you who are over age 70 and a half, which actually it's really dumb. It was the April 1st after you turned 70 and a half, but then they just changed it to 72 back 2 months ago. So you guys don't have to take out any RMDs for this year. So you're saved on that. If you want to make contributions to IRAs, that's been extended through July 15th, 2020. If you don't have somebody that can do that for you, I happen to know a guy. We've got a team of people that can help you out, including myself. And then also the 10% penalty for taking early distributions has been waived. And the waiver applies between January 1st, 2020 and December 31st, 2020. But I believe and now you can take out 100 Gs as opposed to 50. And the mandatory 20% withholding income tax for rollover distributions has been suspended. In addition, income taxes on coronavirus-related distributions can be paid over 3 years. And some other stuff. I'm sure some of these details probably still need to be worked out. Talk to your CPA, talk to your accountant, talk to your financial advisor. And, this is not financial advice, but it is this new information that is rolling out. So this is just a super high level overview of what's going on. And then the last thing pointed out is that a lot of people are using RVs as mobile bunkers. And that's something that even I've been trying to maybe contemplate doing. But, so you've got a financial advisor thinking about looking into RVs and growing his own garden. What does it tell you for you guys should be doing? So, I am over here walking the walk over here, but, I think we can make it through this together. Just, really appreciate everybody watching these videos. And I think that's all I had to talk about today, Luke.
Yeah. Stay smart, be smart. Look at all the different information from all different sources. Don't believe anyone but yourself. Grow a garden. Be prepared for it all. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more here on Change the News channel.